just preparing.
It looks like we're live. I think Zoom updated.
There we go.
Yeah. Great. Welcome to another Chippy Chicks live stream. We are only 4 Chippy Chicks tonight because Fortune is not feeling well, but we've got tons to talk about. So let's get started. My first thing I wanted to talk about was something that happened in Vancouver is that Phil Kessel came to try out, well, kind of like a tryout, see if he's in shape because he hasn't played since last season. And before the team could announce it, somebody took a photo of him at the airport with his Vegas hockey bag and said, posted it. Phil Kessel is here in Vancouver. So right away, everybody's like, oh my God. So I feel like Vancouver's a pretty hot hockey market. If anything happens, if even like a fourth line person goes to a restaurant or something, people seem to notice these things and report. Whereas I understand there's other markets like San Jose where you can pretty much lead a normal life and people don't know if you're a professional athlete. So I wanted to ask all of us how hot your hockey market is. And I think I'll start with the biggest city, Stacey. What about New York City? How hot is it for hockey players getting recognized or gossip going around?
So I think one of the biggest things about New York, I mean, hockey is not the #1 sport at all. But at the same time, New York is a very sort of focused city, we'll say. So like there are fans everywhere and people notice and things are, people talk about stuff. Like if there are things to say, people will say them. But also one of the things about being a professional athlete in New York is that you want to get noticed, not by like random fandom, but like by, some of the aspects of being in New York. So like, it's kind of a really like fine line for athletes. They want to take advantage of all the things that New York has to offer, but they also want a normal life. So like, it's, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, but you will be noticed. That is for sure. Whether people do anything about it, who knows? But they will get noticed.
So they can be pretty chill if they see a celebrity. They're not like, but so yeah. As the hockey player, you like maybe want to get into a hot restaurant or club or something.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you don't want to be waiting in a club. So you'll be like, yeah, I'm a Ranger, and sometimes they'll be like, what? But of course, someone on the line will notice and be all excited. So
great. Well, that would be good, although embarrassing if you have to say, don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
pull out a photo or something.
Exactly. So like, there's this like really sort of thin line and and some people are more over it, some people are less over it. So
It reminds me of when we read Kelly's book last month when he was in New York, and he didn't seem to get swarmed, but he did seem to have people know him, which seems like it's about right.
That's exactly like right down that line.
That's good. I got it right.
Yeah, you got it right. Good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As I said, like one of the things that I loved about the book, Kelly, was how much you nail a lot of aspects of New York existence.
And I guess I should name it. That was Merry Pucking Christmas, if you haven't heard that. Okay, Danica, what about Philadelphia? I mean, when you could see the games, people seem to be just crazy, the fans. But what about in the city as a whole?
So it's a sports city. I've mentioned before, like all of our sports are played near each other. Like all of our stadiums are all clustered in South Philly, so which is weird. Like that doesn't happen in other cities. I mean, we're bigger. I think the Eagles are bigger than anything. But Flyers fans are crazy. But when Mike Richards got traded to LA, there was like a 30 for 30 or something, like a documentary with him. And there was like the scene where he had to go to a radio show and the receptionist didn't know who he was. Like she was like, "Oh, what's your name again?" And he made a snide comment that would never happen in Philly, and he was absolutely correct. Like, also he was the captain of the team, so like that's another thing. So yeah, like I don't think a fourth liner would necessarily be recognized, but like the bigger guys would. But also most of the Flyers don't live in the city. Most of them live in Jersey.
Oh,
So there's also that element to it. Like a lot of them don't actually live in the city.
why not?
Oh, really?
The practice facility is in Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Really?
A lot of them live in Haddonfield, New Jersey versus the city. So because
Huh.
it's closer to the practice facility and they're there more. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, and if Philadelphia is winning, is the sport bigger in town or is it always
Yeah.
football first?
No, I mean it's any sport. Like
Yeah.
But just like I think the Eagles are just a bigger fan base. But yeah, like it's just a sports city. Like
So
all the sports are really like everyone comes out for them.
I don't
Especially
even know.
because of the
Do you have
location
like
wise too. So
do you have
there's
like
no need each
baseball
other.
and basketball too? I don't even know.
Yeah, with Phillies and the 76ers.
Oh, okay, great. Is that
We
a
also apparently have a lacrosse team
Oh,
Oh, that's good.
because they play where the Flyers and the 76ers play and they advertise during the games and I'm like, how much are the tickets just out of curiosity? And they're super duper cheap.
They're trying. Oh, that's good. Okay, I don't even know if I need to ask Kelly because I'm pretty sure what the answer is
oh.
going to be. What is Winnipeg a hot hockey market?
Like, well, probably even more so than Vancouver because it's smaller. Like, you can't go anywhere without. Not that I run into players all that often, but then I don't go out much. But I remember, like, when I was working at the day job, it was like somebody come back from lunch. Hey, I just ran into these guys at Tim's, and they're like got pictures of a bunch of players.
Oh, beautiful.
So the guys are out and around all the time. And yeah, if Phil Kessel showed up at the Winnipeg airport, it would be known immediately.
Yeah.
Oh,
They,
that's-
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's funny, but yeah, I mean, everything that they do is everybody knows it.
And do they live in a certain area of Winnipeg, the players, or do they live all over?
I don't know for sure. I think a lot of them live in sort of the bigger, newer suburbs. Um, that's where Wheeler lived, and I think lots of them live in those kinds of areas.
Mhm. Mm. And I
Like
think,
Winnipeg's not that big, so
yeah, and I think it's the same, Winnipeg and Vancouver. Like hockey is the main sport. We both got CFL football
oh yeah,
team.
yeah,
So, in the summertime, the CFL, I think it's way bigger in Winnipeg than it is in
yeah, I would think so.
Vancouver.
It's a big football team here too.
Oh, we
Uh,
have a lacrosse. We have lacrosse. Do you have a lacrosse team there too?
I don't know.
But you also have
Probably.
your AHL team plays in the same arena?
Yes, the Moose
Yeah.
play in the same arena,
Yeah, so
which is kind of nice. Like it's nice that they're right here, so it's easy for the
Yeah.
players when they get called up or sent down, like they're in the same city.
do that. And tickets
Yeah.
are probably a lot cheaper for
Yeah,
that.
a lot cheaper, yeah.
But
So
I
like it's
did,
nice for families to go to games and
yeah, I did hear that it was an issue that Winnipeg hadn't been selling out their games. Is that still true? Now that they're
they
doing
have the
pretty well?
last few games, I think. They
Yeah.
have been selling out or gotten close to it because the team's been doing better.
Yeah.
So everybody was happy.
Mhm.
They made the big trade. And I think that sort of sparked interest again because it shows everybody that the team's really committed to trying to go far in the playoffs and
Go
win.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they beat the Canucks last night, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay, let's talk about the All Star game next. The All Star game was in Toronto. They had a total makeover because the Florida All Star game was kind of a disaster. I mean, I think they got negatives from the fans. The people in Florida, the fans there, of course, enjoyed it, but the regular fans watching felt that some of the events weren't really hockey oriented. They were kind of like lame and they tried to get them to do skits, and hockey players are not always the best at that kind of thing. So they had the draft, they had celebrity coaches, they had a women's 3-on-3, they had a specialized skills competition where they just chose a few players, well, not a few, to go in and get eliminated. And then they had an all-star game, which was 4 teams in a single knockout tournament. So did everyone watch the All-Star game?
I watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it.
Yeah.
But and I watched some of the other events besides the game. I thought it was much better than last year. I just remember last year being so cringy, like, oh. So I thought it was much better. And yeah, I agree. Not having the players so much focus on them like talking, having those celebrities involved was genius, and they were great. I loved it. Like that was a highlight for me. It was Michael Bublé. I,
Oh my God.
I shared that clip with you guys, but it made me laugh so hard. And he comes out and talks about being on mushrooms.
I mean, I watched everything, and to me, the best part was the celebrities. Like all like loved hockey. Like everyone
Yeah,
was
that
a
was
big
it.
fan.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Michael Bublé's a big hockey fan, and so is Justin Bieber. And seeing
Yeah.
Justin Bieber out there on the ice skating with those guys, and I was just imagining what a thrill that would be for him, like a kid who grew up playing hockey and watching hockey, and then he's like at the All-Star game. I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. And Tate McRae seems to be a big Flames
Oh,
fan.
that was fantastic. I had a blast watching that, and the sort of like irony of the story. Like,
Yeah,
of
Stacey,
how-
you tell that story about Tate McRae. I
Yeah.
want if anyone
So-
doesn't know it, they should know it.
So basically, the story is that Tate McRae was dating Cole Sillinger. Cole Sillinger cheated on her, and she found out. Hence, the album that is like basically like giving her notice. Has a lot of hockey themes in the video and on the album cover itself. There is actually a picture of Taylor Heisey of PWHL Minnesota wearing goalie pads in attempt to recreate the cover of the album. So of course, when they announced Tate McRae performing in the All-Star game, after like a whole bunch of different hockey teams, like the Boston Bruins had a great deal of fun with this in TikTok videos, with their song Greedy. She ended up becoming the central performer of the All-Star game and one of the celebrity coaches. And of course, who was not at the All-Star game? One Cole Sillinger. So
I don't like to be mean, but he's never going to be at the All-Star game.
I
He made it before he did.
exactly. That's exactly that. Yes. I mean, she was fantastic on her own, but like the
Okay, I did not know that story. That's very
I
interesting.
didn't either. I don't really even know who she is. So
no,
I think it's awesome. Although, you know, it would have been cool if he was at the game and she could just like cut him, you know.
like,
Wow.
Yes.
Not knowing that story, I was totally having plot bunnies thinking about her at the game, like this beautiful young woman
Mhm.
surrounded by all these hockey players.
Yeah. And so she cuts him and leaves with someone who's a better player.
Yeah. 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 I thought I didn't know who she was, but when I heard her music, I did totally recognize.
oh, I probably have, and I just like don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think I knew either. And then I was playing a playlist today and I realized I had one of her songs on it. So I don't know how that
Yeah,
works.
they're very catchy. They're good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought she was good. I thought,
She was
yeah,
good.
I thought she was going to be country, but she's more kind of a rock.
Pop. Yeah. Yeah.
Rubbish. Yeah,
Yeah. Danica,
Yeah.
did you watch any part of the All-Star game?
not a second.
Oh, no.
I guess this is the kind of thing I should ask in the pre-show.
And I've just been busy and like trying to finish my book, so I haven't really, yeah, I was just like, I don't care. Like,
Is it, and that's your book that's coming out in April?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, you better get on that then.
Yeah.
I finalized it last night, so
Yay.
You finished it?
mhm.
Oh, well,
It's
that's
like
great.
it's like edited and done and everything.
Okay,
Like
Okay, well, we
like
are going to
done,
talk
done,
more
done.
about that at the end of the live stream.
I usually watch, so I don't know why. Maybe it was because last year was so bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I didn't watch. Like I usually do, but I was just like, I'm just not interested in this year.
It was good. And I mean, Connor McDavid in the skills competition was so good. And then they kind of insulted him. They said something like, oh, so you helped them set up the events, as if implying he set up.
It was interesting. What is it? there are two things that kind of stuck out in that part of it for me. The first was when Kevin Weeks picked Quinn Hughes' goaltender. Like the expression on his face when he's like, how about when, Kevin Weeks is like, how about Sergei Bobrovsky? And Quinn was like, I guess you just picked my goaltender. Okay. I felt so bad for him.
That was kind of weird because nobody
Yeah.
wanted to pick a bad goaltender and pretend. So they all made up some excuses why they picked somebody. Well, I picked him because he's so lousy and I can always score on him.
But yeah, no, it was wild. But like, I have to also give credit for Matt Barzal, who wasn't originally supposed to actually do the competition, but actually was one of the people who was picked to do it after Jack Hughes couldn't.
I think he said, I want in. Like if somebody drops out, I want in. And he should have been there, clearly.
Yeah, he should have. And he was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting because when he said the reason why I picked Igor Shesterkin is because in a couple of weeks I'm going to be playing him, for the Stadium Series, and also everybody's watching at home. It was pretty much of the gist of what he said. And as I said, like I give major props to him for all of that. His performance when nobody expected him to do well, and he did. He was like what, second or third, I think, or something to that effect. And like, and also the moment with Igor. So,
who was the guy? I can't remember his name. Who was clearly not happy to be there and was going through one of the skills competitions, just kind of lackadaisically shooting the puck, and the crowd started booing him.
That's the guy from Tampa. I don't remember his name either.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
that was kind of ew.
I guess so, but it's nice, like if there's a villain too, right?
Yeah.
Like the crowd likes that kind of thing.
Good point.
I did think he brought it for the actual game, but I guess he just wasn't into that, or maybe he had to cancel his trip to Mexico or whatever.
So funny.
Yeah, all the other players are on the beach.
Well, because they did it with the break week. You got your break week before or after the All Star, so some people got quite a long time. And I think the draft could have used drinking. It wasn't as good as the first draft where everybody was drunk and laughing their heads off. So,
oh gosh, they were like.
Apparently, it was hard to hear each other in the arena too. That's what somebody was saying afterwards. That, they couldn't really joke or do things because they could hardly hear each other in that thing. So, anyway, so better. And I think the other thing that came out of the All Star game was that they announced they're going to be doing international country on country tournaments. They're doing a Four Nations Cup with Canada, US, Sweden, and Finland. And they're also going to be in the Olympics. So I think that was great news. I think all hockey fans are excited for that. And there's lots of players that it'll be exciting for them to play together, not just at an All-Star game, but in a real game.
Yeah.
The other thing that was talked about at the All-Star game was the World Juniors. So we've been talking about this. I think we've mentioned it several times on the live stream before. Now we have the names of the players that are going to be charged. They are Alex Formenton, Cal Foote, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Michael McLeod. And Michael McLeod has 2 charges against him. So it sounds like, I think we talked about the story of what happened, that young woman went off with one player and then he called other people in. So they're not still identifying the London police chief gave a conference. All the players are currently suspended with pay, and Gary Bettman said that all their contracts end at the end of the year. So basically he doesn't think the league needs to take any other action. He did also reveal that although they had done an investigation, they did not let any of the teams know what's going on, because I think there was some controversy that Calgary first announced that Dylan Dubé was going on a leave, and it sounded like a mental health leave. And then they discovered that that wasn't quite true. And they were getting a lot of flack because people had initially responded with great sympathy.
I find it hard to believe that they didn't know.
It is kind of hard to believe that. I mean, I
We
don't.
all figured out who the players were
Yeah.
before they were actually named.
Like
So
we put it together.
Well, I think anybody on that team was under a bit of suspicion, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
So, anyway, it seems like it's going to take a couple of years
Yeah.
yeah.
for
Yeah,
everything
I
to
was
go
I was
through.
interested in that. They were talking to a lawyer because it's frustrating, like that finally they get to this point and yet still it's going to take forever. And I guess there's a couple of reasons for it. One is just because of the backlog in the legal system after COVID, that things are take so long. And also because it's could be very complicated. Like I think their preference would be to have one trial, like to have 5 different trials would be incredibly stressful for the woman
Mhm.
to put her through that all over. So then coordinating between like 5 lawyers and 5 defendants, and it's just a nightmare to organize. So that's the legal system is slow at the best of times, and it's not any better right now. So
Yeah.
the other thing is, I guess there's a law in Ontario that if a case doesn't come to trial before, is it 2 years, that it gets dismissed? So they're running up against that. If they don't get things together and get this trial set, there's a possibility these guys could just walk away.
Yeah.
I think most of the teams have been saying no comment. I know in Vancouver, we are affected in that one of our coaches is Adam Foote, who's Cal Foote's father. So when they were asked about it, they just sort of kind of brushed it off, said he's fine, he's not, affected mentally by this, but it's hard to believe you're not if your son's involved. But I guess maybe the top player as far as skills in the league is Carter Hart. So Danica, what's going on in Philly around Carter Hart?
Well, like when it happened, they first said personal leave and we're not going to comment on it anymore. And then of course they had to have a press conference, and Danny Breer was like, I'm not in contact with him or his agent. I haven't talked to him. Like, I don't know what I can't, you have to take it up with the league, basically. Like everything is being directed. We're being told that to talk to the league, like not talk to us. And that was before they were all getting announced. Like before they officially announced they were being charged. So like, I don't know. It's just, but like last summer, I think I mentioned this before, he had removed the Philadelphia Flyers from his bio on Twitter or on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked Danny Breer about that, and he's like, I don't know. Like he's like, I don't have anything to do with that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So like I feel like they knew stuff was happening and it was just a matter of when they were going to. But yeah, like they all started to go on leaves of absence like within hours of each other. So it was pretty,
Yeah.
like we all put together what was happening. So I just think the Flyers have a goaltending curse. Like, we haven't really had like a goaltender, and like it feels like we're just not allowed, I guess.
Was he your number one goaltender?
Yeah, he was our starter.
Mm.
And has been for several years. So we have like a younger guy that's playing that I think we brought up. But yeah.
It's interesting though, because didn't he have some issues?
He
Like
had some like
focus
stomach
or something?
issues.
Yeah.
So we really, when it first came out, we were thinking this is like a genuine health, because it didn't say health, that like mental, like medical or mental health. It just said personal reasons. So we're like, I really feel like this is like something medical is wrong with him. And Oscar Lindbaum used to play for the Flyers, and like that had happened, and then it turned out that he had cancer. So I was thinking something like that, and that's why he doesn't want to say anything, because you never know. But like it was pretty obvious once, like a couple hours later, more players were being announced, like what was really happening. But just like the vagueness, like this is what's happening, don't ask us any questions, was like okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain because it's always like we can't comment while it's before the courts, but don't seem to comment after either. They don't seem to comment at any point. So
his contract was going to be up after this year anyway. So, like in general, before Bettman even said any of that. So like, I don't know what they would have, if they would have re-signed him or anything like that. So I think they're just gonna wash their hands of him pretty much. I think they're just moving forward. We finally announced a new captain, so I think they're just trying to move forward and rebuild. So
I mean, I don't contractually, I think it's hard not to pay people if they haven't been convicted of anything. But what do we think about that? Does anyone think that maybe they shouldn't? I mean, that was a question that was asked of Bettman in the press conference at the All Stars. Like, can a team cancel a contract? And he just brushed it off, saying they're all expiring anyway, so we don't need to do that. What do you think, Stacey? Do you think there should be some kind of punishment beforehand, or?
I'm trying to remember, like, there was some conversation in regards to whether the teams are going to get compensated for this.
because it affects their cap.
I don't think they're getting cap relief or anything.
Okay.
For this.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I heard of and I was like, what? Like, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, Mel, it's hard contractually, like legally, when they haven't been convicted yet to do something, but it doesn't really sit right with us when, I mean, but again, you're innocent until proven guilty, but it just seems like there's a lot of evidence for them to charge them, and it doesn't sit right.
The joke right away on social media was that Edmonton was going to sign everyone as soon as they.
Oh God!
But yeah, so I guess, I mean, you just have to see what's going on. As Kelly said, it would be a lot easier for the survivor in this case to just have to go through one trial. But on the other hand, I guess if you sometimes can get a better deal for your client if people agree to testify against another person. So sometimes they like to split it up that way so they can.
And think how ugly it could be too, because the woman actually identified 8 players.
Yes.
And only 5 have been charged. So there's 3 other guys who were somehow involved, according to her, I guess I should say. But are those guys going to testify against
so
their
it's like, did they settle
peers?
type of thing, or were they just like in the room?
And there was an older man who was encouraging her to be nice to the players, and I haven't heard anything about him, but they did say something about a new source of evidence.
So he turned out to be, now I shouldn't say it without being 100% sure, but I know I read they did identify that man, and I think it was a Nike representative.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, they did interview Cale Makar about it, and he had some weird quote, but basically, was not involved. Luckily, is what he basically said. Lucky for me.
It's all just so ugly and sad.
And the other thing about Bettman is that he absolutely denies there's any problem in hockey. That there's no systemic issues. And apparently there's a previous tournament, that Halifax tournament, that we also had heard about, where there was a video of a sexual assault. And apparently the investigation has reopened into that as well. So, I mean, there could be some reckonings coming. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. So let's move on to playoffs. Talk about playoffs. Now, one thing that's interesting is, with Fortune not here, all our teams are in the playoffs right now. So we can be happy and talk about it. Or does anyone, I guess Danica, your team is maybe, do you feel that they're gonna really go for it? Or do you think they're just gonna say, well, it's a bit of a fluke, maybe?
I don't know.
We'll sell some. Do you think they'll be selling or buying or what?
Well, Well, like they're trying to be like this, it's like the new era of Orange, and like they're trying to like rebuild, like we've been rebuilding for like the last 10 years. But like with having Keith Jones now and Danny Briere like officially like the GM, like they're trying to like, and they just Coots is now our captain, which I found interesting because Torts said he wasn't going to give him his letters back, and he did. So
But there was controversy about that, wasn't there? Didn't some people think it should be Travis Konechny?
yeah, but no, he's a gremlin. I'm surprised that he is the alternate.
Okay.
He is a shit stirrer. Like we love him because he's a shit stirrer, but I don't think he could be like have that like leadership ability. I honestly thought it was gonna be Scott Lawton, and that like made more sense to me. But like when thinking about it more, Coots has been like with the team his entire career. He was drafted at 18. He loves Philly, so it totally makes sense. He's a veteran player, but he just hasn't been with the team for the past 2 years because he's been so injured. So that's why I was like a little surprised by it. But like he came back and he was back, and I was like, all right. So I get it. So yeah, I think they want to get there. I think they're gonna try, but it's just a matter if they can do it.
But you have some players like Konechny who are going to become free agents, right? So are they going to
yeah.
re-sign them? Or because you don't want to go and lose them if you go into the playoffs and they don't re-sign.
Yeah.
Another Johnny Gaudreau kind of situation.
I think he's another one that like would want to stay. Like I just feel like yeah, I think he'd also be a big loss for the city because he's got like kind of a Philly attitude, and people really, like I said, he's a shit stirrer and we love him.
That's
But
the Philly attitude, is it?
yeah, he's a total like he's like only 5'11", which is not short, but compared to hockey players, like it looks comical because he'll fight anybody. He will fight anybody. He'll fight guys that are like 6'7", and it's hilarious. But like, yeah, so he's great on the ice. So like I can't foresee them like letting him go. Like I think they would want to keep him on just for like that whole thing. But I know there's a lot of talks about Lawton getting traded, which I'm like, why? These are like these are like our leadership guys now. So that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's hard when you're doing well and you've got chemistry and then they start taking people out. So
yeah, so I don't know. We'll see.
Stacey, how are you feeling about the Rangers' chances in the playoffs this year? You feeling good?
You never like someone actually said, and I need to find this quote because it's the best description of this team. Here we go. It's Nick Zanaris who said this. Let me find it. It's on my bookmarks. He said this after the Rangers' victory this afternoon in the Stadium Series game. And I believe the quote was, "The Rangers are like a college student with executive dysfunction who only works under deadline." In terms of how they play, they have never been a 60-minute team. Like in this afternoon's game, they showed up for the first 5 minutes, and then they showed up in the third period.
Yeah, but they got the essay done on time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it's literally like you never know if they're going to get it in. Like you literally never know what is going to happen. And like literally like with this kind of behavior, we are on a 7-game win streak. Which again, like how is this possible? Do we think we're making the playoffs? Absolutely. My heart is broken.
How far can you go?
I have no idea. Because again, you never know what's going to happen with this team. Injuries have been a problem for this team all year. In the beginning of the year, it was Fox and Igor who came back and are now finding their way back in. My heart goes out to Blake Wheeler.
Oh yeah.
And Ryan Lindgren, who left today's game in a golf cart going to an ambulance. So I don't know. Do I think we're going to make it into the playoffs? Absolutely. Anything else that happens afterwards, I'm going to be on a roller coaster ride watching to see what they do. They are going to be buyers. They are going to be searching for, I think, a top. Even though I think that I think they're going to be searching for a couple of pieces. But I don't. But I don't know. Like, it's literally going to be this wild roller coaster ride. So
This is like the beginning of the year when I asked you for your prediction if the Rangers are going to make the playoffs, and you gave me this long thing with no prediction.
yeah, because you never. I mean, I know that every team goes through this period of I have no idea what I'm getting with this team. All I know is that they're winning. Like, you can't really and I know like every team goes through this kind of period.
Do you think you could win a round? Let's put it that way. Could you win a round?
Yes.
Okay.
I definitely think we can win a round.
All right.
And then who knows? We can take it all the way. We could lose in the second round. I have no idea.
Okay, well, let's go. Speaking of Blake Wheeler, let's now go to Winnipeg. I heard that Blake Wheeler said they were asking him, do you think who's your captain now?
Who?
Adam Lowry.
Adam Lowry. She said, asked Blake Wheeler, do you think he learned from you how to be a captain? And he said, I think he learned what not to do. It was not anything negative against
no.
Wheeler. He thought he was too serious, too intense about it, and that he needed to lighten up. And it sounds like the room, without him and without Pierre-Luc Dubois, it's a better room for the Jets.
Yeah, seems like it. I mean, nobody really knows what goes on in there, but it seems like it. All I hear about Adam Lowry is good things, like that he's a great leader. He's like doing all the right things that he needs to do, leading by example, standing up for the team when he has to. So I think it has been better. And I think, there was a lot of suspicion that Blake Wheeler was part of the problem, that his kind of old school and really tough on some of those new guys, and that didn't go over very well. So, I feel bad what happened to him. I saw the clip of the game where he got injured, and I think it's probably he's never going to play again.
Really?
Because he's not so much from the injury, but just his age, and he was like on a 1-year deal with the Rangers, and I don't know. Well, who knows? But he's out for the season anyway, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, he's out for the season, but people are saying that if the Rangers actually go deep into the playoffs, there is a potential chance.
Oh, that's good. That would be
that is the talk.
Yeah.
But
especially if you're older and you needed to rest up. So that could be good.
Yeah.
So and Rick Bowness has got the room.
I think so.
He was out. He was out at the beginning of the season, wasn't he?
Yeah, his wife was apparently very seriously ill for a while, and I guess she's still recovering, but he had to take some time off to be with her when that happened. But I think I was really concerned at the end of last year because when they lost that last game and then they were out of the playoffs, some of the players said things in the post-game interviews that were kind of like bullshit, but kind of like, we wish he had said those things to us in person instead of saying them, because he came out and said he was disgusted with how they played, and they're like, well, you should have said that to us personally instead of on TV. And I'm like, come on, you guys, you knew. I'm sure he said that to you.
Yeah.
So I was a little worried about how things were going to go in terms of relationships in this season, but it seems like everything's okay. Apparently, again, Rick Bowness seems to be a great guy. Like, players seem to love him. He really cares about his players, so he's getting results.
Yeah, before this season, it seemed like you might lose Hellebuck, and was it Shifley who was going to go? Two players, but now you re-signed them, and now you picked up Sean Monahan.
Monahan, which I think was a good, strong trade. We didn't lose anybody. It was traded for a draft pick, so that's good. And he got his first goal last night. Yay! he seems like a good fit.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a signal that Jets, the leadership of the Jets is committed to
Doing that.
really trying to do this.
Are you feeling good? Pretty good going in?
I feel pretty good, but I think I mentioned this before that like I'm never totally confident because it seems like the last, I don't know how many years, they seem to do well right up until Christmas or right up until the All Star break. But after they have that break, they come back and it's just like a tank. Like that happened last year. We barely made the playoffs and then we were out in one round.
Mhm.
So I'm afraid to get too excited about it, you know, or too confident about it because I feel like they were playing fantastic. And then they did lose a bunch of games in a row after the All Star break, or actually before and after, whatever. But
Until
I was
last
thinking,
night.
they did win the last few games, but yeah, last night was a big game for them though, because Vancouver's good. Like they're playing great.
It was a surprisingly violent game, I've got to say. There was just a lot of
those Canucks came out hitting hard.
So I thought we haven't even played them, and things are already getting kind of nasty, and it's the first time we've met this year. So
Yeah, I
crazy.
think it'll be interesting to see the next couple games. It was a good game. It was fun to watch.
Well, I mean, it would have been more fun if we won, but
yeah. Sorry.
But I mean, because I think the Canucks are obviously they're doing well, but it's a bit like Stacey. Like I think, can you not just play hard for the full 60 minutes? Do you always have to give me a heart attack, you know, at some point in the game that you're not showing up? So they added Elias Lindholm, and he so I think whenever you add a new player, there's some gelling that has to go. But I mean, it's just so exciting when you have a competent management group and they do positive things. You're like, wow, like I didn't know it could be like this after the Jim Benning era. It's like, this is so great. We make trades for good players and, you know, move things around. And I loved Kuzmenko, who they sent to the Flames for Lindholm. But obviously the coach didn't like him. He wasn't doing well, and he seems like he's doing really well in Calgary. So it's sometimes nice that you can have a win-win trade when the player does well on the new team and you get somebody who maybe wasn't happy at their team too. So I mean, I feel the same way everyone else does. You don't want to say, oh yeah, I feel really confident about this team, but I mean, obviously I'm more confident. And last year when we were just struggling and playoffs were just like a dream. So it's nice that way. Okay, now we're moving on to our two regular features. First of all is Wildest Things. So Kelly, you wanted to talk about Patrick Laine?
Yeah, it's the wild thing, but it's annoying. I saw it on Twitter. Somebody had tweeted about this podcast, I think that's where's the Columbus Blue Jackets podcast that talks about, you know, the Blue Jackets and stuff. And I guess someone put a clip online even about a comment that they had made about Patrick Laine, who, as you may or may not know, entered the player assistance program, I think end of January-ish, to receive some care. And he had posted a thing on Instagram saying that, you know, he needed to take care of himself right now. And so who knows what's going on for him, but good for him for getting the help that he needs. And this podcast, which I won't even name and I won't share the clip, I won't have anything, but they made an atrocious joke about Patrick Laine and getting help because he wanted to commit suicide.
Oh, no.
It was really awful.
Oh.
And of course, and then Patrick Laine saw it on Twitter and commented like, this is just not okay. So he got like 1,400 comments supporting him and everybody supporting him. And people are just calling out this horrible podcast for what they said. It's just so disappointing that they have this program, and I'm sure it's hard enough for players to acknowledge when they need help and to leave to get help, and then people say things like that. It's just really awful.
It is pretty, I mean, last time I remember with Danica, we were talking about that guy who had reported, he said he influenced that junior player who wasn't going to come to Philly.
Oh, yeah.
And then Torts refused to talk to that guy when he was in the interview. He says, "You're the guy that caused all the trouble, right?" So I don't know. It's sort of interesting that there's just so many sources for news now, and not all of them are reliable. And some of them are doing quite damaging things because just remarks and fans
Oh,
can right on.
are you talking about the kid who we traded for Drysdale?
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
trying to say this is Kevin Hayes. This has
Yes,
Kevin
that was
Hayes'
it. Kevin
name
Hayes.
written all over it.
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes doesn't even
Yeah.
play for the Flyers anymore. So what
I
does he
know.
give shit? Like what does
Well,
he
he
give?
had nothing to do with it, but this guy
Like,
said, "I have it
Yeah.
by a source," and then Torts called up that reporter. Were you the one
yeah,
who
I think
blamed
it's
Kevin
because
Hayes?
him and Torts. That's why he had like a no trade clause, and he left. I think because of Torts. Like I don't think they. I think they were not meshing well in Philly.
Yeah.
Um,
But Torts said
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah.
Hayes is good people. Like he had his
Yeah,
back.
I think maybe they just didn't have a good working relationship. It was fine.
No.
You can't work with someone. You can't work with someone. You
I
know.
could see that. I could
Um,
never
Yeah,
work
like
with Torts.
he was having trouble with Torts when Torts was the coach in New York, and he
Yeah.
was in New York too. So this is what I
but yeah,
Torts is tough. So
yeah,
okay, well that's really horrible. I hadn't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing that
It's
up.
it always it strikes me because I have an interest in this because it seems like every hockey book that I write lately has these issues about men's mental health and has the players like having to deal with stuff like that. So it just was like, oh, how are you supposed to make progress when you've got like
right.
yeah.
douchebags like that?
It's always the difficulty in the no comment is that people just like to jump to make comments or make theories or whatever. That whole thing we did about Corey Perry. I mean, people just jump into an informational void with made up stories. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So. Now, Stacey, you've got a hormonal fever going on, I think, for the Rangers.
So we go from very serious conversations about mental health to the complete opposite, which is as part of the Stadium Series games, like all outdoor games, what happens, of course, is that there is a practice day and then there is a family practice day. And I figured, considering the amazing, the wild, the sort of difficulty that hockey has at times, we also need to see the joy as well. And so there were multiple instances of Family Day that was absolutely adorable. Players that don't bring their youngsters pretty much anywhere brought them to Family Day. So there are pictures of baby Shesterkin, there are pictures of the older baby Panarin. There are photos of the Trocheck babies. There is an adorable video of Mika Zibanejad holding his daughter. There is a picture of baby Goodrow, and it's just this really cute, adorable thing. One of my favorite of the pictures was of baby Shesterkin sitting on the goal, and watching dad. and Leo Trocheck, who also attended the All Star game as a junior Rangers correspondent, was looking out at the baby sitting on the goal, going, "What's going on here?" But it was just adorable, and I urge you to look at these videos on both TikTok and Instagram if you need a bolt of joy in your lives.
Or your ovaries stimulated.
Yes.
And Jacob Trouba was holding his kid. Someone remarked, "My gosh, he's holding him like a football." But there was some really cute moments where he was holding him and putting his feet on the ice, like not his feet, but like the onesie on the ice. So like he was like skating and keeping his head up. It was the cutest. Adorable. Anyway.
It's interesting that teams seem to go through these cycles where everybody is young, single, and partying, and then suddenly they're like young, they've got families and everything. Is the team which stays together? So
yeah,
neat. Danica, I don't know what your wildest thing is. It's gonna be a
I don't
surprise.
really have any. I guess we talked about it. I don't think we talked about it in the show. I think we talked about it beforehand. But the Flyers and the Devils had their outdoor game last night, and the Flyers came in and they were all dressed like Rocky. So I thought that was like a fun thing to do. And then the
Awesome.
Devils dressed like the Sopranos, like gangster, like Jersey, like gangsters. So it was just like a fun thing to like see them do that.
I thought that was excellent, and it seemed to go together well too.
Yeah, I
That
thought it went well.
like tough
It's
guy.
like
Yeah.
I saw like the first like reel on TikTok, and like there wasn't, I didn't have the sound on or anything, so I didn't know if they were playing Eye of the Tiger. I just like saw it and I was like, oh, why are they all? And I'm like, oh, it's Rocky. Like I didn't need to know, I didn't need anyone to tell me. Like I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I get it. Um, and then like I saw more and it was like, yes, they're all dressed as Rocky. And I was like, yep, makes sense.
Danica, have you ever gone up those steps and like raised your hands like Rocky?
No, I think I've only been to the art museum like once. Um, only
If I
tourists.
visit you, I'm gonna do it.
I want to do it.
I guess my wildest thing has to do with goal sellers, because we had a thing where we played Detroit, and at the end, what's his name? Waldman. The Detroit player, did the gritty dance after he scored the goal, the overtime goal that won it. And then there was this whole thing with Morgan Riley where people are upset if you show off after you score a goal, which I personally think is ridiculous. So they were like, well, are the Canucks gonna, get revenge for that when they play Detroit again, which was gonna happen the next week. But instead they, I guess I should look up his name. Well, one was really upset about actually getting accidentally, I hope, I sticked in the face. He was really upset about it. And so as he was like beaking and complaining on the bench, the Dorov went by and was just doing the gritty in front of him. So I didn't even know what the gritty was before, but now I'm quite familiar with the moves. And but I just want to say something, like if somebody is celebrating after a goal, I think that's fun and it's nice for the fans and everything. And I don't know why we have this whole hockey code that you're not supposed to show off when it's a personality. Like if you watch NFL football, they celebrate every touchdown with, amazing moves. I mean, I can see it if you're celebrating and you're winning 7-1 or something, but for an important goal, or if you're
I think with
something,
football too, they get heated about this conversation as well. So it's not
do
just
they?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's not a good example.
yeah, they're like, oh, so they're celebrating too much. And it's like,
too much.
let
Yeah.
them.
I mean, the other thing that I really hate is, if a guy scores a goal and he's like happy and somebody cross checks him as
Yeah.
he's celebrating. Oh, I just hate that. I think like,
Ugh.
oh, what? It's over. The play's over.
Like, get over it.
Give it up. So
Exactly. Get over it. Like he scored. It's done. Next.
yeah. Okay, now for best dressed, we have done something different. We've got a few female players this time. For the PWHL, had their 3-on-3 game. They've been getting a lot of exposure, setting a lot of attendance records. So who have we got here? Who's got the top?
Okay, so this is Lexi Agia, I think is how you say her name.
Yeah.
She's from
Yeah.
the Ottawa team.
Okay.
I'll say when I was looking, Ottawa seems to post these a lot. And the other teams, like they gotta get their act together because they seem to be like doing these fit checks. I really like this one, and it seemed like they had a lot of her. Like she seems to really be into it, like and really have fun with it. I'm not too familiar with this player, but I felt like I could see a personality from her, which is not something that we get with our male hockey players all that much.
I am just loving how happy the PWHL players look when they're coming in. Like, I'm getting to do this dream job and come in, and now you're photographing. So it's so good. The next player on the top, I chose this. I took this picture from my TV because I couldn't find a picture. Tessa Virtue was the celebrity coach for the PWHL team, and she had these amazing fur cuffs on. She looked so good. I
didn't even
love.
know.
That's a great look. So I chose that. And okay, let's go down below that picture. I think that's Kelly's, right?
That's mine, and that is Zoe Boyd from,
Mhm.
again, the Ottawa team. She, similar reasons to what Danica said. I'm not super familiar with her. I don't know her, but I love this fit. Look at her. Is that attitude and style and like showing some
Look at her
personality?
arm muscles. She looks
Yeah,
pretty
that
strong.
too. Yeah.
Heart and soul.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm loving the way that Ottawa is doing the walk-in, as they call it, and doing
Yeah.
little videos of all the players in all like a whole range of different outfits, like the guys in their suits, and sometimes they show a little flash personality in the suit, but these women are dressing like in all kinds of things. And like you said, they look so happy. I just love it.
The next picture was from Danica. She sent that for me because she knows I like Oliver Shillington, who is back. He was in the player assistance program, but now has returned to the ice for them. And so we're happy to see him back. And finally, Stacey.
So I was looking through pictures and I liked Madison Packer's fit for PWHL New York. I'm always supportive of Madison Packer. But today was the Rangers Stadium Series game, and I was thinking that something would come out of it, and thankfully it did. People have been talking about upcycled jackets and custom fits for the past couple of months. Kristen Jerzik's recent contract for NFL to create NFL women's fan gear has been on people's lips recently. Someone who has been making some really great clothing is Kevin Leone. You can follow him on Instagram or on TikTok. The video in question is actually of him presenting Keandre Miller, who is always at the top of a lot of different best dress lists, with a custom jacket in honor of the Stadium Series game. And I loved this idea a lot because, again, it continues the conversation about custom jackets and who's making them and what's going on. And also sort of tying it into conversations about fits and fit checks and wardrobes and people who are amazing at it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think there were a lot of people were talking about things that Taylor Swift was wearing too.
Yep.
That you're getting retro jerseys or repurposed jerseys or whatever, just athletic wear taken to the next, a more fashiony level. So it's pretty interesting trend. Okay.
I kind of regret not picking Justin Bieber. And did you see that jacket he was wearing at the All Star game on behind the bench?
I love that. It looked like a fuzzy hug.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
comfortable blanket
I like it
cover.
too.
It also reminded me actually of Sebastian Stan's fit for the Met Gala a couple years ago. It was a very similar color, and it looked very similar in terms of how comfortable it must have been.
Well, it was funny because they had video of him on the bench and he was yelling at the players, "Let's not get too cozy out there." I thought, cozy? Like, that's your coat.
People on the bench, and it was great. He was so excited because both Vincent Trocheck and Igor Shesterkin ended up on his team. So it was kind of awesome to watch.
Okay, let's do some shameless self-promotion now. First of all, Kelly has a few things going on. You have a Kickstarter, right?
Yes, I'm part of a multi-author project. We've done a Kickstarter campaign to launch a new series that's going to be coming out later this year. And the Kickstarter is an opportunity to get some special editions of the books early and a whole bunch of fun swag and stuff. So we're really excited about it. It launched, it funded really quickly, and it's doing really well. And it's been super fun to put all this stuff together for people. So you can check it out. It's the Bang Brothers Hockey. If you search on Kickstarter for it, you'll find it, and you can see all the different tiers and all the different stuff that we have on offer for you. It's pretty awesome, and beautiful hardcover special editions.
And so are the books going to be available afterwards, or is it only for the Kickstarter people?
Yeah, the books will come out in ebook and paperback.
Mhm.
This summer, starting in July, I think July and August, they all come out.
Okay.
But the special edition hardcovers will only be available through the Kickstarter.
Is that their last name, Bang? Or is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about five brothers and their baby sister, and their last name is Bang, which is a Norwegian name. It might be pronounced Bong, but it's not as funny. So,
Well, more druggy though.
yeah. So the six books feature the five brothers, and my book is about Annie Bang, the little sister.
Okay, great. Sounds good. And you have a free book out right now too.
Yeah, I have a freebie. It's not hockey romance. It's called Body Shot. It's the first book in my I call it my tequila series. It's about the three former Navy SEALs who open a tequila bar on the beach in San Diego.
Okay.
And it's
And
free
that-
right now, Body Shot.
And that's on all the sellers?
Yeah.
Okay. Stacey, you've got a book coming out next month.
Yes, the dating contract, which is the second in my last girl standing series following the B'nai Mitzvah mistake, comes out March 21st and will be available wherever books are sold. It's the story of Leah, who is a sports agent, and Samuel, who is a sofair / comic letterer, who are forced to enter into a dating contract as he is contracted to be in charge of writing ketubah for her sister's wedding, and a whole bunch of insanity ensues.
So we might have our next live stream just before that. So maybe be able to show us the book at that time. But you can pre-order right now.
Yes.
Everywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
And Danica has just finished her new book.
Yes. So my book, Risky Play, it's the last book in my Bulldog series. That will come out on April 2nd. It is her brother has already had a book. He was my first book.
Yeah.
So this is his sister transfers universities. She's like so they're a little bit younger. She transfers to a university in Philly, and she kind of starts to have a secret relationship with one of the younger players who happens to live with her brother. So it's a little complicated. And like her brother is like kind of his mentor, but she understands her brother's overprotectiveness. So she's like, we need to keep this on the down low type of thing. He does not like that, but kind of like just kind of goes with what she wants to do. So a lot of it is that. She's also a book blogger. So it's like my love for all the book bloggers, and like reading is in it. Her sister-in-law is an author as well. So it's a lot of, she's like her PA, and she's like, I have other authors in the series as well. So it's like kind of involving everyone and showing where everyone else is at the end of this
So
book.
it ties up a lot of the stories from the.
Yep.
How many
Yeah.
books are in that series?
This will be 7.
Book 7. Okay. And why
Yeah,
did you?
I didn't want it to go on forever. I kind of needed
Yeah.
it to end at a certain point. I feel like my readers are probably going to bully me into trying to write more books, but I need a break.
So did you just wanted to wrap it up like as
Yeah.
a series? And are you going to start a new hockey series after that, or do you know?
I'm gonna do small town. I'm gonna go back to my small town world. I started writing a book for Blaze's dad from the Fake Out.
Yeah.
Was that the guy that
So
owns the bar? Is that the
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have like, I'll probably like do a series with his dad, 2 of his brothers, and his sister, because like the other 2 brothers are like older, so I just don't really think they need books, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, I needed to set it aside. It's just not where my muse want it to be at the moment. So those won't really be hockey romance, but they'll be like hockey related, kind of hockey adjacent. I think the sisters book will probably be the only one that's like really traditionally hockey romance, but the rest won't really be. Like I haven't written them yet. So like yeah, so There's also potential for doing a college series after this book because I could spin off there. So that's a potential I could do, but I'm just like, there's other things I want to write right now.
Well, I think it's up to the Flyers to do really well and inspire you to do more.
Yeah.
I personally have nothing coming out, but I did finish a chapter today, so yay.
Yay.
Hey,
So I think we're wrapping up now. Just
yeah.
and possibly we haven't discussed it yet. March 17th could be our next, but that's St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh,
So
St.
some of us
Patrick's
may want to
Day.
be drinking day. So it could be the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Green. I'll be drinking green wine.
Well, thanks for listening, joining us, and stay tuned for next month.